focus more on harmonic astrology, I think, than I did this one. This would be more the planets.
Well, harmonic astrology actually is something that does make sense to me because
Right.
it sounds like everyone has influences of planets and it's just which there's smaller influences and larger influences. And if you want to bring out some of the smaller influences, that would be like a harmonic.
That's correct. So this all astrology is just saying that the planets have a frequency influence upon us.
Yeah.
That's it. But you can't predict the future. That's why I put the quote from Rujar in there and stuff. It's future, that psychic future prediction astrology, I say for every 100 people that work with the kings and queens that predicted something, maybe one person got it right, the rest of them got their heads chopped off. Yeah,
So if the punishment for predicting wrong was your head chopped off, you probably would not do so much predicting.
That was the old days when they did things differently, you know. But I'm not a great fan of predictive. I would say I think of it like the weather. You can predict a certain energy pattern, and there's a possibility it could happen, but the question is, we can't say how you're going to relate to it.
Yes. Well, with weather, I mean, clearly like there's rain. So are you saying like there's going to be rain? Like
Well, no,
a high
there's
percentage,
not clearly rain. There's not clearly rain.
Okay.
There's only a percentage of the possibility of rain. Right? And it's the same thing here. This pattern, there's a percentage of a possibility this pattern may happen in the future given what we're looking at.
But I feel that if we know that pattern exists, so to me, this would be the point of astrology. If we understand that a pattern is existing, we can prepare correctly.
That's correct.
If there's a chance of rain, you would understand and prepare for it and be able to mitigate it, essentially.
In my view, as you prepare for it, it doesn't happen, and you at least you've learned that pattern and what to do for it.
Right.
You know, but how it happens and how one relates to it is individual. You know, you can't say you need to do X, Y, and Z. It's an energetic pattern, a weather pattern, and that's it.
So it's an energetic. So you would say the planets are energetic weather patterns, essentially.
That's it.
Look at
they're
it
just they're frequencies, and there's at certain times certain things get amplified, and we got to remember that this is something that's been around for thousands of years. It was one of the major forms of medicine in Europe for years. It still is completely endorsed by the governments of India and so on as a form of healing art. You know, so it's official there as it's homeopathy and things like that. It just got lost. Medical astrology got lost in predictive astrology and things like that.
I can see that.
You know, and then it becomes fortune telling. You know, and that is the lowest of the art. I like to say.
Yeah. Right, because the art of preparing energetically for storms or dealing with your own inner relationship with circumstances has been lost.
Right. And then what also is lost is that people think, well, I'm born under this sign, that's what I am.
Yeah.
You know, that's ridiculous. You know, that's what harmonic astrology says. You are every sign, you are every possibility. And if you identify with a certain harmonic, maybe you were born as an Aquarius, but you identify with that harmonic, and now you're going to become another a Virgo or whatever it may be. So you have the complete. You can switch into any frequency at any time,
which gives you back the power of your own life.
Yes, you are the zodiac.
You have responsibility and accountability for yourself.
Yeah, but all that got lost in the Dark Ages. And the burnings of Constantinople and stuff, like all that knowledge was just burned up, you know, and because what happened was they couldn't understand. The ancient astrologers said, for example, that Venus would become Mars. You know, so how could that be? Mm-hmm. Venus is here and Mars is there. Venus can't become Mars, so we get into a reductionist modern view of astrology of the planets, rather than a frequency view of the planets, where Venus could become Mars. Frequency-wise, they can transform, but
Okay.
but because people could not understand that, they burnt all the text. Uh,
Because you're saying that we, as a society, get too caught up in physicality and
that's
material that
correct.
we can't be alchemists in a sense anymore.
Well, yeah, we're caught up in reductionism, meaning that planets would, for example, this is a good introduction to the work. We look at the night sky. We go, I'm here, and that planet's way out there. You know, I used to teach people to go out and watch the night sky. My Boy Scout training, right? But you could see the planets moving, and the ancients called them the wandering. They called them the wandering stars. They would just wander around because they could track them. And but we look and say, well, we're here, and that planet's out there. It's how could it have any effect on us? Whereas they didn't have that mindset, and they were able to look at the planet visually and merge with it. So it was a form of, we would say, it's a form of quantum entrainment,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for them, the planet wasn't something a millions of miles away. The planet was something inside of them, and they could begin to intertwine with it. And they didn't have a lot of lights and stuff around, so they spent all night long in towers looking at the stars and the planets moving. And then they began to associate certain times of the year with certain behaviors. Primarily, it was more cultural in the beginning. And then the Greeks began to say, let's make an individual. And they're the ones that came up with an astrology chart and mapping the planets to yourself and so on. So we can look at it culturally. If the planets are moving in a certain way, you can predict certain kind of behaviors, not necessarily uh, behaviors as you're going to do this or do that, or this is going to happen to you, but more or less a weather. The weather is going to change. The environment is going to change. It's a good time to plan, right? It's a good time to do. It's a good time to go take a vacation, perhaps. But they would recommend something, but you can't say how you're going to relate to the weather.
Right.
So the weather is going to change, but your relationship may be, God, it's raining. I love it. I'm going to go out dancing in the rain. But you can't say that that's what you're going to do. And that becomes fortune telling astrology today. You just don't know. But we do know there's going to be shifts. There's solar cells and things like that happen. They can predict shifts. So the ancients who spent so much time watching the behaviors of the planets moving and watching society, they came up with certain behaviors for certain planets. Those behaviors are still used today. If we say men are from Mars and women are from Venus, that's the name of a book,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's all kinds of references given in that way, but those references come back to a way of ancient of thinking about behaviors and planets moving and so on. And in the class itself, we want to focus on what we bought the movement of the planet as frequency. And we don't want to give it a lot of meaning, although I'll give you the ancient astrology meanings of the planets, which seem to certainly have validity. When we say men are from Mars, women are from Venus, well, there's certain behaviors we see with Venus, certain behaviors we see with Mars. Those behaviors tend to uh, be very intuitive. So we'll take a look at those. But the real interest is in the planets as pure frequency and being able to resonate with those frequencies, dance with those frequencies, and being able to allow them to move through you effortlessly. Because we've been listening to them since we've been in the womb. So we're now amplifying them through tuning forks in a way we could become more conscious of it.
So when you say we've been listening to them since birth, what does that mean?
The planets are constantly moving in orbit around the sun, and so therefore, as they're moving like this, they're moving at different speeds. Mercury's going faster, Pluto's going big, long orbit, slower. So if you took those orbits, you would think like if as a child, and I have with me this is called a whirly,
Okay, so
right? So
it's a like a long plastic
a
tube.
long tube that's
Yeah.
hollow,
Hmm.
right? And so if I were to take it and pretend it was at the ends of planet whirling around, if I go like this, if it goes slower or faster, so each planet moving faster and slower creates its own frequency, right? And you can mathematically calculate that frequency. And that's in class, I'll explain the math of it, but it's really simple. But we bring a frequency of a planet into the range of human hearing. It's a scientific way of doing things that's done for dolphins, for bats, for whales. Anything that's beyond our normal level of hearing, we can reduce it to what we call octaves or raise it in octaves until we can hear it with our ears.
Hmm.
So for class, we've done this with tuning forks, and we'll have three types of tuning forks that what we call weighted tuning forks, unweighted tuning forks, and little tuning forks that are different frequencies that are basically just what we say an octave apart that resonate with the whirly of the planet going
Planets.
around
Okay.
us. Yeah.
So so you discovered somewhere along the line, or you became attuned or aware that the planets had frequencies. And what made you decide that you were going to actually manufacture tuning forks based on these frequencies?
Well, it's just what made me decide to make the tuning forks is what I do all the time. I said, if we can reduce it to a frequency, I want to experience that frequency directly. I want myself, but I want others to be able to experience that frequency directly. So there, and most anything, if you know how fast it's going, how slow it's going, and what time period can be reduced to a frequency that you can make into a tuning fork, right? So I wanted to experience directly the sound of what we might call the music of the spheres, the sound of all those planets whirling around me, even though I've experienced it all the time subconsciously. And it's very interesting that scientifically that in the cilia of our ear, the little hairs in our ear, we're capable of actually hearing atoms collide. So therefore, we are always in touch with this whirling movement frequency of the planets. But
Wait,
we're in
hearing
touch with,
what? What did you say?
yeah, we
Hearing
can have two
atoms?
atoms coming together. You could
Oh,
actually hear it.
collide. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
collide.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, our hearing is unbelievably sensitive and unbelievably unconscious. It's not you can't just say, well, let me hear the atoms collide, but but your unconscious mind does. It can and you could actually maybe hear it in a dream. So there's certain things that happen that in ancient times have been they understood, but we now think it's crazy. And the idea of the planets whirling and making frequencies. Uh, well, now it's becoming less crazy because NASA is publishing frequencies of planets all over the place on the internet, right? And we're finding out that space isn't a vacuum; it can conduct electromagnetic frequencies and so on. So we are now have this ability with the planets just to tune in and just meditate on Venus, meditate on Mars, meditate on them relating together. Uh, Again, from my perspective, the planets are just a meditation.
Hmm.
You go in and they're going to open your body up to the frequencies of them coming through. You're essentially a sonic astrology chart where they're moving constantly, but you're not asking about your future. You're just saying right now, I just want to let myself vibrate with this particular energy and see phenomenologically where it takes me.
When you say that we've been hearing these sounds since birth, are you saying that because the planets are moving in space in their orbital pattern and they're making noise, that our tiny little things in our ears actually do pick it up,
Yes,
but just not consciously?
not consciously.
I can't look at you and say, "Oh, I hear Venus right now."
No, but you can look at me and say, I see Venetian behaviors. In other words, it's possible we can tune in to a planet, and the ancients used to say you could be, in a way, possessed by that planet, right? You could be possessed by Saturn. You could be taken over. In astrology, we talk about Saturn return at 29 years old. When Saturn frequency becomes so strong, it affects your life. And we see similarities in that in psychology with the differentiation at 29 years old and so on.
Interesting.
So, so the idea of a frequency, we identify with the frequency is no different than going to a rock concert and everybody gets excited about a certain piece of music, right? So there's a frequency that's present, and we all of a sudden, we're attracted to it for whatever reason it may be. So at any point you can become, and we actually say that person's very Jupiterian. That person's, very Saturnian. This is a very Saturnic situation, or that person's, Mars is war. That person, and so that when you're taken over by the Mars energy, we say that you get more aggressive, or the person needs to have more Mars qualities, or that's why men are from Mars and women are from Venus, I guess. I guess what they got.
So how do we who have, I have a set of planet tuners, would I need to know, is it beneficial to know like the qualities of them to meditate with them, or does it matter? Can I just meditate with them without knowing the qualities of the planets?
Yeah, you don't need the qualities could get in the way.
Okay.
I think in the beginning, I just want, for example, when I made the planet tuning forks originally, do I do anything originally? I don't want to get involved in the advertising of it, so to speak. The qualities of what people say they are. I prefer to go into the sound without meaning, but knowing I have the vibrations calculated correctly, and see what happens inside of me and my environment as I'm entering into those sounds without necessarily having to name it. So if I say it's Mars, that's more or less a marker for what I'm listening to. And then I may still know the behaviors associated with Mars. I may know what people have said for a lot of years, but I do my best not to get so involved with that it biases my understanding of the vibration in my body.
And
That's what
do you experience, like, for example, with Mars, do you personally experience Mars as it is described?
Yes, I think actually their descriptions of the inner planets, meaning up, because they didn't have Uranus and Neptune and Pluto. Their descriptions of the inner planets are really quite accurate from my perspective. And also from a behavioral psychology perspective, I think they're quite accurate. They could be used, but I still, even in the use of them, I would want to focus just on the vibrational energy more so than the name itself. Then, if I say Mars, I could hear the sound, I could feel the vibration, and so therefore, in a situation where people are aggressive, I can know the difference between. I could say the word Mars, but I'm talking about a certain quality of Mars expressing itself, and it doesn't in that way. But I could also find Mars in just two people being more louder and focused and moving in the direction they want to go, but maybe look aggressive, but it's not. They need the Mars energy, we would say.
But I think it is helpful to have the descriptions, because I think you'd really have to study and meditate a lot with each tuning fork to get it on your own.
Yeah. Well, you won't get it on your own. That you just get. It's amazing when you do it that way and you're open to it. What you will get is in your dreams. You'll get it. You know it. It's not like you don't know it.
Okay.
But it's just a matter of you ask, how could I bring this forward in my life and know it in a way that would work, in my daily life now. So there is something that but how it expresses itself for you could be different than somebody else. But that doesn't invalidate looking at the descriptions, because I give the descriptions to everybody anyway, because I like those descriptions. But I just want to be very careful about it, because otherwise people intellectually go with the description, but they have no felt feeling of the sense, of the vibration of it.
I mean, is it helpful? Like, it's easy to take, I took two of the tuning forks, let's say the earth and the sun, and I know, well, the earth has the qualities of groundedness and stability, and the sun has qualities of
Yeah.
illumination and vitality. And if I tap them together and I meditate on those qualities, I
Yes.
can bring them forth in ways that
Yep.
work for me.
Well, there you go. And so what you're doing is you have an image, you have the frequency, you basically have the fuzzy logic is what you're doing.
Mhm.
And you apply that through the sound, which becomes an algorithm for the image itself via the concept of planets. But remember that we're not thinking of the planets being out there, we're thinking of the planets being inside of us. So therefore, the frequencies carrying the fuzzy logic algorithm deep into your, Jung would say, into your collective unconscious, right? And then it can manifest in your life through dreams and also through behaviors that could just begin to appear spontaneously without you having to consciously understand how you put things together.
Right. So you can know a lot as much as you want, but it's not an intellectual exercise. It's a feeling.
No,
It's allowing things to unfold in ways like
yeah,
I couldn't possibly know, oh, I need this planet because I'm dealing with my mother. I could just
no.
choose. I could just I mean, maybe it'd be helpful.
But you could say, I need to have more Mars to deal with my mother, or I need to have more Venus, or whatever. You could say that, but that's okay because you're using the description and you're using the frequency together. Then but I'm not against that. But you have to be, again, I would just say I want to just access these planets in a way, because sometimes you say what you need consciously is not what you need.
Right.
So you have to be very careful about that.
So what would you say? So I have the planet set and I could just have an intention for myself and just go like, I mean, really with any of the tuning forks in an intuitive way, just see what calls to me without even
Yes,
knowing the description and just play with it, be with it, meditate
that's
with it.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
play with it, be with it, give a good suggestion to bring it in, and the planets become a way, something in the sound healing world that's been used for thousands of years. We're able to convert them to frequencies now, and it becomes one tool of many. You could use. Uh, I don't. It's fun. I like. If there's no playfulness, forget it. It's fun. It's the you get away from the normal music genre because you're just listening to the beats and the hummings of the planets. And if you go into it with the concept of relaxing and being mindful, with a good suggestion to yourself, then I think it can manifest. Things can begin to happen. It's I don't I use it in my I used but I don't carry the planets with me. I only carry with me C and G and Auto 128. But if I have them in my studio, I will use them. I will especially I love to put Venus on certain areas of the spine with the weighted forks and so on. So we have exercises for listening, exercises for using them. And if you're attracted to that form, some people are attracted to planets more than, say, the brain waves. Some people love brain waves. Some people just want pure math. All these become expressions that one can employ clinically if you want.
Some of the planet tunings, the frequencies are very close to each other. So they
Yeah,
do produce binaural beats,
they do. Yeah,
but
they certainly do.
different
Yeah.
than brain waves, different than the ones. I mean, it's some
No,
of them are
all
close enough. Yeah.
All binaural beats are brainwaves. That's
Okay.
what's so cool. So you now have like that. We're talking about very fast binaural beats, slower binaural beats, octave going up and down binaural beats. And when you take a look at the planets, and especially we have the asteroids too, right? So the
Right.
asteroids are a planet that broke apart that are making all kinds of little frequencies, and so your whole reality is nothing but like this. So how do you sort it out? You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah, I
So
didn't even think that it wasn't in my mind that the asteroids were planets at some point.
yeah,
Now it makes
maybe one
sense. Yeah.
nobody one planet, maybe one planet or two planets,
Right.
nobody knows, but they broke apart,
Right.
and then they made little sound. They all sound different because their orbital patterns are spinning a little bit different. And
Interesting.
again, I find going into those beats unbelievably satisfying. And because again, if we just say, if I go to my piano in the background, I said, let me just play Chopin or something, or follow the 12 tones that we have and make up beautiful music. It's beautiful. But and of course, that's been evolving too, because someone would say, if you play a C, did you play right at the same time a C sharp? It's dissonant.
Hmm.
But what the heck is that? I mean, it's dissonant to who? I like it. Right? So it's a matter of your listening that makes it harmonious or not. And the whole history of Western music is, for example, taking the augmented fourth, which is the C and an F sharp, was called the devil's tone. And then I play a piece on the piano called Dante Sonata by Franz Liszt, and it's all based on the devil's tone and the devil riding through hell, da, 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 like that and all that. And everybody loved it. It's a beautiful piece of classical music, right? And so it's Grauman's mystical chord has built into it the augmented fourth. So we find that all these sounds that Bach loved and they loved in the Middle Ages that were done in Gregorian chants, they just kept getting more and more beautiful sounds, but that were not, they weren't beautiful, but now they are beautiful.
Hmm.
You got your head chopped off for playing it. Now you get rewarded for playing it. And so we go into the planets and here's all these beats and da, 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 and if you just want to listen to certain tones, you tighten. But if you could just let go, there's the healing right there.
Yeah. I
Just let
mean,
go.
I think that's the underlying practice of the whole sound healing is just the letting go of and letting all the sounds, no matter what, no matter where they are, is
Move.
not associate your life with and let it go and let it come through. I mean, that's my practice every day. That's been the most powerful.
That's welcome. That's my practice
Yeah.
too. I mean, whatever it is, it's my teacher, and I want to learn how to vibrate with it. And then, but I can't say exactly just letting that vibration through. How's that going to manifest in my life? Well, my life has to expand. Again, I can't be a future fortune teller and say, well, if you let that vibration through, you're getting X, Y, and Z.
Great. You
But
don't
I
know.
can
Yeah.
say if you let the vibration through, you're going to expand and have more possibilities. And then I have to only say in fuzzy logic what it can do.
Right. So the best advice is to let go of our expectation of what you think it will do or might do and just allow it the frequency to come in and let it do what it's going to do
Yep.
without resistance, without trying to direct in a
Without
certain way,
judging it. That's
judging.
that's also when judging it positively or negatively. That's when you know that's unfortunately when people, well, 432.
Yeah.
It's a frequency.
Hmm.
But now all of a sudden it's the only frequency, right? And if you start assigning things to it, what happens is that you lose its universality.
Yeah. And had a, I completely understand, like there's a lot of people say that they use particular low frequencies to activate your lower chakras and to
Oh, yeah.
manipulate and stuff like this. And I really agree with it because there are definitely, because if you be with some low frequencies, you feel it in your
Yeah, you feel low.
chakras. But what I realized is my association with it was something negative. It wasn't the actual frequency or the physical feeling
No.
is not negative. It's just if you are not aware, if you are unaware, then it can act on your body in a way, but you have to be aware. My thing was it was just really about awareness of
Yeah, it's we say mindfulness, listening,
mindfulness.
awareness. That you're not sitting there and like by moving with the frequency, right? I'm not asking. I can talk with the frequency. I can say I'm moving with you. Hello, how are you? That I want to open myself to new possibilities. That's the fuzzy logic that has to come with it. But how that will manifest is if I try to control it, I just now tighten
Tightening.
around the
Yeah.
frequency.
I feel
Yeah.
like it's the tightening around it that is the thing that makes your mind start to associate negatively.
Yeah, it will. It associates negatively, or you try to hold on. You hold on to it. I
Mhm.
see this a lot with some of the people I went to music school with. That I'll play something. They'll say that's ugly. And I realized that their body goes like that, whereas mine's going whoa.
Yeah.
And so but you can't intellectually convince them. They can only learn how to take a deep breath and go beyond. But once they get into it and they can travel, they'll find that all the frequencies are possible. I think the
Well,
best, Indian music has 22 notes in the scale. And when I was a child, a kid, my mother hated that kind of music. She said it's not real music. So, and now if you go to India, they'd say that's real music.
it's amazing. I mean, because I grew up on pop music, and it just was that's all. That's I understood Indian music, but it just didn't occur to me like all of the rules and regulations about
But
particular kinds of music, and that's quote real.
yeah,
It doesn't
yeah,
even
yeah,
make sense now to me.
I know. Believe me, because I grew up with classical, and actually I grew up with classical and country western. And I had probably to my advantage because I had two real musics.
Yeah.
So I had to put that together somehow. So
But what I love about the planets is there are, I mean, so many people who do love astrology and love all of that, which I think is a fine line because you do have to be really careful about that predictive quality. But to be able to actually have tuning forks that have frequencies that you can just be with, really, I feel opens up that field to what it was meant
oh,
to be.
it certainly does. And I presented this at the national astrology conferences, uh, because you look at the chart, you say you're going to have Venus conjunct Saturn, that's going to be a certain energy, rather than saying this is what you need, this is what's going to happen in your life, the fortune telling part of it. I just say let's meditate on that, and then use fuzzy logic to discover new patterns and new things in your life for the future. And that's that was my idea of astrology reading, was a sonic reading with fuzzy logic.
Mhm.
Uh, and then allow them to, if there are certain qualities of Venus, certain qualities of Saturn, then we would talk about them and how that might relate to them so they can develop new behaviors in that direction and begin to identify it. But I couldn't predict in the future so and so is going to say X, Y, Z to you and things like that. Uh, I just, but again, I'm trained not to do that, but many people who do astrology have no concept of they have to be important, so they have to tell somebody I know something that you don't know about
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
a whole nother topic, right?
yeah. Right. That's another topic altogether because I have no idea about anybody's future. Thank goodness.
Well, it is helpful because I mean, my mom, let's just talk about my mom. She does do charts, and I think it's lovely. I really do. I mean, it's obviously I get it now from a sound perspective. I respect it a lot more because it's something that to me it's like, yes, you were this and this is it's very factual. That's what I don't like about it. But now I feel with the sound, with the understanding of the sound, and even now with the planet works, I wouldn't have to know anything really about astrology. But if my mom or someone came to me and said, well, you have Saturn and Mars and blah, 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 I could say, well, here, let's just take those
Yeah,
frequencies and let's actually meditate on them and like let it do what
that's
it
it.
and
Yeah.
break the pattern or let the pattern emerge in a new way that's best for
Yeah,
us
and
and our
there comes the
family.
fuzzy
And
logic.
yeah,
There you go. So you're
I love it.
astrologer
Yeah.
already.
I literally just became an astrologer.
That's right.
I feel I feel it.
Yeah, but that's basically it. That's how I've done. I've done so many charts over the years, and I interpret them sonically. That's where I got involved with harmonic astrology. It's
Mhm.
I felt and progressive astrology, but I was more interested in harmonic sonic interpretation with fuzzy logic than I was with this is exactly a fact what's going to happen. I just stay away from that completely, because sometimes you give your power to somebody when you say you have to tell me about myself,
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah.
that.
Mhm. Right.
And you can actually create a future for that person that's really not their future. And that's going to end,
Mhm.
and it's and
The person receiving can get caught up in the energy pattern of something that someone else is saying and then
that's right.
get stuck in
And
it.
they do something that's contrary to what they really need to do, because they've been. That's the fear people have of hypnosis and things like that. That somebody can control you, and essentially, if you're doing anything, astrology, psychic reading, whatever it may be, if you're telling that person what's going to happen in a factual, exact way, it's a violation, as far as I'm concerned, of that person's path in life. It always has to be vague and fuzzy. They have to fill in the specifics.
Right, because it's just probability.
Yeah,
There's a
it's all
probability,
it's
that it
all
will rain. Yeah.
probabilities.
Right.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
The only time I would ever get that specific would be if someone's suicidal or something like that. Then I would become very, very directive.
Mhm.
Other than that, I'm not. I don't want to know. I don't want. I want you to find out what's best for you.
Well, it's like you're giving information. Like you could tell someone, if you tell me your skin is very sensitive to the sun, and I tell you the sun's going to be out today,
Right.
that you can put those things together in ways that work for you.
The sun's going to be out today. It's up to you whether you want to go out and burn it or not.
Yes, yes. Whatever pattern, you can meditate on that.
Exactly. Exactly. This is the fact. This
Yeah,
is going to be da 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 da. And
yeah.
how you relate to that is up to you.
Right, right, right. Um, and the do you do have the weighted ones and the unweighted ones, and those both are available, yes?
Yeah, they come like this. This one would be weighted.
So the weights have the
That's,
little
they have little
weights on the
weights at
side,
the
yeah,
end,
and they
right?
vibrate.
And they're designed, you can put a crystal on the bottom if you want. They're designed that you can tap and press to the body, and they make a lower tone, and so on.
Mhm.
You could hold them off the body and just let them vibrate like this, or press it to points on the body, or meditate in your ear. I like to sometimes just tap, put it here, and
On your chest. Mhm,
hum, because you feel it through your whole body.
mhm.
Then we have the unweighted
So
ones.
you have all the same frequencies of planets, which is 11.
Yeah, there's
In the
11.
unweighted, you can also use weighted, so you can actually take the frequency of the planet and vibrate it onto your body.
Yes, directly onto your body, right? Which is nice. It's fun, and you can. I use it a lot on the spine, but there's anywhere you want. You can just You can run the vibration through, right? So, but now we have the unweighted. They're the ones you can tap. This is Moon and Earth.
Mm.
You can tap and move, or you could tap,
on your knees.
have them meditate like this, or just move, and you can take more than one. I put moon and earth. We do moon, earth. I just picked one out. Oh, it's Saturn. So moon, earth, and Saturn. So it's just, they're whirling around like this, and those frequencies are a little higher in amplitude at that moment. You're tuned into them. And we could do
Right.
all kinds of
Meaning like what you're saying is all the planets are sounding all the time.
all the time.
And when you take those three, for example, the moon, the earth, and Saturn, you're just bringing those harmonics forward to
They're
make
coming,
to make them more present for you.
they're a little louder.
Louder.
They stand out a little more, but all those frequencies are happening all the time, right? And so, and they're happening also in a way in different octaves. So we have little ones too that you can tap on a crystal. And so this is Venus. It's my favorite thing to tap. I love Venus.
Okay.
Right, so make a nice sound. Moon. Or you could tap them. This would be Venus, Saturn. And you could use the higher pitch and lower pitch.
Yeah,
And
there's so many fun things really to do with the planets.
And in class,
different
we'll
combinations.
do all of that in class. That's everyone's going to have forks, and you can make up different planet concerts for each other. And to do that without, we could have the descriptions. You could say, well, I want some Venus, I want some Mars, right? And you can make up your own concert and just sit there and let somebody play it. And we'll meditate on all of them at once. I have recordings and so on that will do, everyone will receive recordings of all the planets, all the asteroids that you could use without having to buy tuning forks. And if you want to purchase tuning forks, then you have the ability to make individual concerts for people based just because you want that planet for them, or based on an astrology chart if you're an astrologer. Yeah.
That's I think an incredible addition to people who love astrology.
Oh, absolutely. It makes everything, it's beyond belief addition for them, because they can actually manifest the planet relationships and have people meditate on it right then and there, or they can record them and have them take them home.
So for the class, if you don't physically have tuning forks, that's fine.
No, we have recordings.
Yeah, you can.
Everyone's going to receive recordings of the planets and the asteroids, and also I make. No, there is recordings of that. I also make tuning forks for exoplanets. Those are planets that are discovered we think might have life in them in other solar systems.
Like what?
Well,
but are those available for that we can? Are those available?
Recordings.
Recordings. Okay, recordings. Got it.
So let's say that we're in our solar system, and it's going to have a certain sound that we've heard all our life. So I have recordings of other solar systems that we can just go in and be on a planet that we think has life in that solar system and listen to that and see what happens to us.
Just see what happens. Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
No expectations, no promises.
That's what I do.
We can just do this
and
for
then
fun.
I keep journals of what happened to me in that planet.